On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tacova store. So stop by Tacova's Nashville, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tacova's Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacova's. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Nashville, we have your update on Metro Council. We've got good news and bad news for Nashville's parks, including a new obstacle in helping the unhoused community, and a new feature on your favorite non-emergency services portal, Hub Nashville. I'm joined by Nashville Scene columnist and CityCast Nashville contributor Nicole Williams and executive producer Whitney Pasterek. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tacovas. And hey, stay tuned for our Tacovas Don't Go Gently tip for this weekend at the end of the show. It's September 6th. I'm your host, Grace Fuse, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Nicole, thank you for joining us. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Grace. Excited to be here as always.
You're here to give us our update on Metro Council. Can you tell us what happened this week?
So you may all remember that a few weeks ago, we had some Nazis in the historic Metro Courthouse.
Yeah, sure do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Not cool at all. They were essentially trying to sign up to speak during public comment, which is this awesome time at the beginning of the meeting. This is a plug for public comment, where you can go to the council meeting, sign up, and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And these Nazis from out of town came to the council meeting, tried to sign up. Thankfully, there were enough people there in front of them to essentially block them from speaking and spewing their hatred. And they also caused kind of a ruckus before the meeting even started, so they got removed from the chambers. So that situation was dealt with on that day.
Yes.
But Councilmember Zulfat Swara, who is a council member at large, so she represents all of Nashville, Davidson County, had an idea about changing the rules. She was like, we don't want out-of-town Nazis coming here and spewing hatred during public comment.
Wait, I thought already you had to be a Davidson County resident technically in order to give public comment. Is that not true?
No, that has never been true.
Oh, I thought that's why people gave their addresses when they talk.
The reason people give their addresses is so the council members know, okay, are you in my district? Are you actually directly affected by this issue?
Got it.
And the whole giving your address thing, Vice Mayor Angie Henderson, dun, 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 we love our Vice Mayor. She actually changed that practice and has eliminated the requirement to give your address, because that was never a set in stone requirement. So Vice Mayor Henderson was like, some people just don't feel comfortable giving out their address.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. If somebody was like, stand up in front of me and say something controversial and give me your address, I'd be like,
so I can throw a brick through your car window.
Absolutely not. Thanks.
Right. So she was like, we don't need to be doing this. So that requirement basically got eliminated. You can if you want to, but most people just say, what district they're in, what council district they're in. But Councilmember Swara actually presented a change to the council rules of procedure, which are like the rules of the game for council meetings. And she wanted to limit public comment to Davidson County residents. Now, she got some pushback on that from people who work with undocumented folks or people who don't have homes and teachers who live outside of Davidson County because they can't afford to live in Davidson County.
Right. I mean, I think more and more people who work within Metro are in that same boat.
Right. So she decided to expand it to Tennessee residents. And the council approved the rule change. And so that will go into effect 30 days from the last council meeting.
I have like 7 questions.
Yeah. Do we have to bring our driver's license?
Yeah. So there's this long list of documentation that you can provide.
Okay. what if you don't have an ID or like a piece of mail handy or something? Like, let's say you moved to Nashville 3 days ago or whatever, and you already have something that you want to say.
Yeah.
You don't have mail, address your name. I don't know. I'm kind of picturing like a college student. You know what I mean? I'm picturing somebody who just came here to study. Also, like with that, is there an age restriction for who can speak in these public comment?
No, there's not. Yeah. What if you're a kid?
We're going to have people bringing in their birth certificate.
Right. Yeah. To me, this is an example of something that we see sometimes with this council and with all governmental bodies, where one extreme situation happens and we overcorrect.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing happened. It was awful. It was dealt with. But in response to that, we're going to put an administrative burden on the council staff, which, by the way, we don't have many council staff. Like, they do a ton of stuff. So we're going to put that administrative burden on them. And then we're also going to put a burden on people trying to speak just in good faith.
Like a Nazi in Franklin is cool to come up and say whatever.
Well, and Councilmember Suara addressed that and was like, well, at least then we would know they're homegrown.
Whoa.
Like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard pass.
Didn't really sit super well with me, but like, I get the concern. I just think this is not the way to address the concern. I think she handled it really well in that moment. And all of the like Nashvillians came together to block them from speaking. We all signed up. We all took spots so that there wouldn't be any spots left for the Nazis. We're good at that. We are good at addressing it as a community. I think when we try to put these governmental restrictions in place to address these things, like we create barriers that don't need to be created. And we do more harm than we do good.
Speaking of people showing up places where maybe they shouldn't, Fort Campbell, what are they doing with the old folks' homes?
Yeah, this is kind of a wild one. So the city used to operate a long-term care facility in Bordeaux. And I guess we are like renting it out to the military for a night in October to do exercises, including flying helicopters and busting through doors.
Nashville's hottest new haunted house is the Bordeaux old folks home.
Yes.
That's crazy.
The military did this, I think last year or the year before, in a different council district. And they just do this periodically where they like come and they use some land or an abandoned building. So the council member for that district, Councilmember Joy Kimbrough, actually asked for the resolution to be deferred because she had some concerns, understandably. This is right near a neighborhood, so it's not in the middle of nowhere.
And it's that same neighborhood that I think also has to deal with all the noise from the cop gun range where they're firing guns all day.
They do, exactly. And they also have to deal with a landfill. And like, this is a district and a neighborhood in particular that we put so much of our sort of undesirable activities, we like push them out to
the historically Black neighborhood of Bordeaux.
Exactly.
Well, hey, the good news is as soon as they finish building Nashville's own cop city, Maleta suitcase, then they can have these exercises within their very own cop city over there.
I would think so. But in the meantime, I think Councilmember Kimbrough is going to be speaking with her community, making sure that any concerns they have get addressed. But it's just kind of wild that we would do that without having any sort of input from the community or any sort of notification. Like,
I just think if we're going to be breaking down doors, it should either be a little theater door that's in the middle of a black box theater and they bust through, or it should be like, in Arrested Development, like a model home in the middle of a desert.
Yep.
Why not?
Why not?
Go to a desert, knock down the Arrested Development set. Model home.
I just want to know how they find these spaces, how they're like scouting for the best sort of abandoned building or piece of land in Nashville? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I'm sure there are some wonderfully abandoned buildings in less populated places that they could terrorize for a night. But okay, cool.
October 25th, everyone. October 25th.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Grace, can I talk about some good news, bad news in the parks?
Yes, we love parks. Please go off.
All right. I want to start with the good news.
Yes, love that.
The Indigenous Peoples Coalition and some other groups have been rallying to get Cumberland Park over on the East Bank renamed Wasioto Park, which is the original Shawnee name for the Cumberland River. And they presented their proposal at the Metro Parks Board meeting on Tuesday, and the recommendation was accepted, which is awesome. Nashville is actually home to a big stretch of the Trail of Tears. It went straight through Nashville. That's what we call the path traveled by the thousands of Indigenous people who we forcibly displaced after the passage of the Indian Removal Act in 1830. But the main route of the Trail of Tears basically goes straight through downtown and then up north along the river out to Cheatham County.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think we should really invite Albert Bender from the IPC on to talk about all this.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of our community. But anyway, Cumberland Park, hopefully soon to be called Wasioto Park. Do we feel like maybe this is a good omen about the future of the East Bank for...
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the sentiment. I think that that's, short answer, yes.
It's better than nothing. It feels a little performative, like a lot of what we do in Nashville. It feels a little performative, but I am happy that we are listening to Indigenous people and what they want to see in their city that we stole from them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be at least one community meeting about this before they make it official. So y'all keep an eye out for that. We'll try to let you know when that's happening. And let's all go out and show our support because, yeah, to Grace's point, I think having those like sad little tin signs that say Trail of Tears that nobody ever cleans, like isn't really getting the job done. We need to do a better job of telling that history.
Yeah, and Wasioto is a beautiful name, by the way. Doesn't it just make you feel peaceful?
It's definitely much better than Cumberland.
Sounds like boulders rolling downhill. Cumberland.
Exactly.
Yes.
It does. A fantastic point.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, but then we have to move on to the bad news. If you're not following Open Table Nashville on Instagram, you should be.
Not to be confused with the Resi competitor.
Not to be confused with the people who help you get restaurant reservations. Not that. They are a local nonprofit that works to disrupt the cycle of poverty, walk with the marginalized, and provide education about issues of homelessness. They do street outreach, housing navigation for folks who are experiencing homelessness. They're amazing. And earlier this week, I noticed them post an urgent call for people to join them at the Metro Parks Board meeting. Same one where they approved this recommendation for Wasioto Park, because apparently at the same time as Parks is doing right by our Indigenous neighbors, they are all of a sudden saying that groups that do outreach to our unhoused neighbors on Parks property need to get a permit first. Like if you want to go give a bottle of water to somebody, you've got to get a permit. Back in August, another outreach group called Colby's Army was confronted by Parks Police when they showed up for a weekly event that they have hosted for 12 years.
Oh, God.
I don't understand.
I just don't understand what the argument could be for that.
Well, there were some folks who showed up to the meeting to give their arguments. It sounded like they actually didn't even want outreach workers to be able to provide services on Parks property. It wasn't like, we want you to have a permit.
Just why?
Well, great question. The arguments were along the lines of people want to use the parks to be there with their children, and there are more appropriate places to provide services to people experiencing homelessness.
The appropriate places are everywhere.
Right. There were no quote unquote appropriate places provided as an alternative by the speakers. And it really felt incredibly just icky. There has been a movement in recent years to reclaim park spaces from people who have no homes and are forced to live on parks property.
To remind everyone, they can't live on state property anymore because the Tennessee Republican legislature made that a felony. So parks are a only possible alternative for a lot of these folks.
Yeah. And so the Parks Board approved a permit for Colby's Army to provide outreach services at Richland Park. Also important to note, Richland Park is in a rather wealthy part of the city. It's like right outside of Sylvan Park.
So they approved that permit, but it's unclear how that's going to apply to anybody else. And I reached out to Allie Wallace, who's the executive director of Open Table Nashville, to get her feelings about all of this, because obviously it's going to impact the work that they do on a daily basis. She said, quote, street outreach is uniquely designed to respond to needs in real time, weather, crises, emergencies, etc. Doing outreach at a set day and time is great and does create consistency for folks knowing when a provider is going to show up, but flexibility needs to exist outside of that. That is a logistical barrier when we're trying to help people survive and meet their basic needs while they wait for their housing.
And I think this all just goes back to the housing crisis in Nashville. If we're not going to make housing affordable, which we haven't done, if we're going to block efforts to reform our zoning code to try to make housing more affordable, it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like if we're going to gatekeep our neighborhoods and make it more difficult for people to live in Nashville, we cannot simultaneously say you can't be on public property that belongs to all of us because we're all taxpayers. And that's something that the district council member, Brenda Gadd, who represents the district where Richland Park is, she made a very good point. We're all taxpayers. If you buy a bottle of water, you're a taxpayer because you're paying sales tax. So it belongs to all of us. It doesn't just belong to people who pay property taxes, and it doesn't just belong to people who have homes.
I guess this is why the term not in my backyard, aka NIMBY, was invented. But I do want those people who think, okay, if we force them out of this park, then I personally don't have to deal with it anymore, to try to think outside themselves.
Yeah. And just what is the alternative? I've yet to hear from anyone, what is the alternative? If this is not the appropriate place to provide services, if we're not supposed to meet people where they are, what are we doing?
Yeah. So these permits, just to clarify, it has to be for a specific date and time. It's not just like I am an organization that does this every single day. And so you'd have to just like submit for every single individual day if that's what you do.
And like weeks in advance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's all right. Heard.
While you're looking out for that meeting about renaming Cumberland Park, Wasiota Park, please also take a second. If you feel like this is kind of unnecessary, feel free to reach out to your local Parks Board representative or Hub Nashville.
Apparently this is controversial. I don't think it should be. There's this new feature on Hub Nashville, which if you're familiar is Davidson County's portal for non-emergency services. Usually you'd use the website or the app for doing things like requesting a new trash can or complaining about the Airbnb next door or whatever. But now there's a place on Hub Nashville to leave compliments, also suggestions. I think this is cute. How do you guys feel?
I agree. Cute.
Cute is a good word for it. I'm the Grinch, so, I'm here to just bring everybody down.
No wonder you don't want compliments, Nicole.
Too small.
You're a mean one, Miss Nicole.
Exactly. So, okay, it's cute. Should we be doing cute in government? Like,
yes.
Should we? Okay. But this...
In Hub Nashville, yes, I think.
This also stemmed from a person tweeting about wanting to be able to do compliments.
That is true. This stems from Betsy Phillips, who was a previous guest of ours about her book, Dynamite Nashville. She wanted to compliment some construction workers, and the mayor made that happen for her.
And that's great that the mayor is making that happen for Betsy Phillips.
For all of us, Nicole. He's doing it for all of us who have good hearts.
I think I'm feeling a little bitter because my partner had a very fantastic suggestion about how to make it easier for people to understand how the transit referendum would impact them. Basically creating a Google Maps-like situation where you would be able to see, okay, if I'm trying to get from my house to work, currently taking the bus, it takes me X number of minutes. If the transit referendum passes, how long will it take me?
I mean, I think that is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, this is a great idea. Freddie, we know you're listening.
Great idea. Great idea. So you're implying that the suggestions box is not active enough?
Well, I didn't put it in Hub Nashville. I put it on Twitter. However,
so you're mad that you don't have as much clout as Betsy Phillips?
I would argue that Nicole has as much clout as Betsy Phillips. I would just argue that one of these things is easy to do and the other one probably is taking a little more time. Nicole, maybe they're working on it and then they are going to do it. And then you can leave them a compliment on Hub Nashville.
Yes. Let's be positive.
Okay, let's all acknowledge. I mean, they're not working on it. They're not working on it.
Maybe they are, Nicole.
Freddie is not reading my tweets. He probably has me muted at this point.
He probably does, if we're being honest. Yeah.
Like, let's be real. So I'm so happy for Betsy that she got her compliment section in Hub Nashville.
Give it a little time, Nicole.
If we're doing suggestions on Twitter and we're just going to pick and choose which ones we want to implement, and some of them are cute, some of them are cute, and others are actually meaningful and could help you move your policy objectives forward.
You can do suggestions in Hub Nashville now. Put it in Hub Nashville and then complain to me.
So I have to
what I mean?
So I have to do twice the work?
Oh my gosh.
Is what you're saying?
Yes. Copy and paste your tweet is what I'm saying.
Wow. Okay.
Also, you could just tweet directly at Hub Nashville because Erin Williams reads all of those.
Erin Williams is great.
She's actually going to be on the show next week in one of our Mile in Their Boots segments, Erin Williams. So stay tuned for that, y'all. Okay, I have an idea, Nicole. How about this? How about if everybody who is frustrated right now about this whole parks stopping street outreach people from getting to the unhoused neighbors who need their assistance, how about if all those people go into Hug Nashville and leave compliments for Colby's Army and Open Table Nashville and all the other organizations who are doing this vital work. And maybe that outpouring of love will help the dark, small hearts of the park police grow 6 sizes. Maybe
it'll help mine too.
Yeah. I'm going to write you a compliment, Nicole, just so you feel better about this. My question is, how do people see this? Like, they forward it to...
Who knows?
Like, I don't know. This is like a Craigslist misconnections, but it's Hub Nashville's. Like, I'm just going to check it every day to see if somebody's being nice to me.
They'll forward it to the appropriate department. It would be cool if there was like actual external visibility. That's the thing I would like to see. If you could see the compliments and suggestions.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. I hope somebody gives you a compliment because I've been kind of mean to you today. So I'm sorry.
Y'all, if you have a compliment for Nicole, email us at nashville@citycast.fm and we'll pass that along publicly on Twitter.
LOL, LMFAO even.
And now it's time for your Tecovas Don't Go Gently tip for this weekend. Do you like watching people in kilts throw heavy things? Then this is your weekend. The Middle Tennessee Highland Games are happening at Sanders Ferry Park in Hendersonville. But it's not just caper tossing and stone putting. They've got a bagpipe competition, scotch tastings, live Highland coups, and tons of great Celtic vendors to round out your day. Local Scottish clans will even help you research your ancestry to find out if you're family. Don't go gently, go into Tecovas. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Our executive producer is Whitney Pasterek, our producer is Marie Cecile Anderson, and our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury. Our theme music is by Prof Jenkins. Also, just want to give a quick shout out to Zoe Culkin and Natalie Rivera for their production assistance this week. This episode is dedicated to our favorite podcast contributor, Olive Anderson, the beloved cat of our producer, Marie Cecile Anderson, who passed away this week. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye!